All right, welcome back. So today we are going to look at. Let me move this. No, I don't want to do that. I guess there's a good spot. All right. So, excuse me. Today we're going to look at Plato's theory of forms. We actually looked at this yesterday. This was I actually decided to do this yesterday and today because I do believe that this is a very good bridge between where we have been, which is in the field of epistemology, to the unit or field or theme of metaphysics. So I decided to go with this again today. Give you a little bit more time to work on your answers to the questions that I gave you about the perfect forms. But hey, let's go ahead. Let's take a look and see what Plato had to say. This is Plato, obviously. So Plato had to say about his theory of forms. Okay. So, all right. So, what is the theory of forms? The idea. This is what the theory of forms is. Is the idea that the physical world is not as true or as real or as the timeless, absolute, and unchangeable ideas. Now, what does that mean? Well, yesterday I gave you a quote: "Beauty is in the eye of the beholder." And what does that mean? Well, most people say that beauty is subjective. That what you see is beautiful. It's different from what I see is beautiful, or what this other person sees is beautiful. This, that, and the other. Okay. Now, let's look at this diagram real quick. So, when I said the word beauty, if we look at just the form of beauty, so the word beauty, all right, so that is something. That is something. Like we know what beauty is, even if we can't necessarily describe it very well. We know what beauty is when we see it. But here's the thing we have to do. When I say the word beauty, you have to think about, okay, well, what is beauty? How can I describe something that is beautiful? Okay, so that is the concept of beauty. What is beauty? What is beauty? That is you thinking about it. And then when I ask you what is beautiful, so you have the form of beauty, then you have your concept of beauty, which is you thinking about it. And then you tell me individual things that are beautiful, like flowers, like nature, like women, like pottery. And this is, again, these are beautiful things. These are things you see as beautiful, but it is not beauty in of itself. And then we even take it we even go even further than that, and we have imitations of things that are beautiful, like drawings of things that are beautiful, or paintings of things that are beautiful, or just pictures in general of things you think are beautiful, whether it be your family, vacations you've been on, this, that, or the other. So it kind of trickles down. It trickles down, but to the point where we wouldn't say that a painting is the definition of beauty. We would say it's a imitation of beauty, but it's not the definition of beauty. So, what is beauty? Well, this is where the idea of the theory of forms come in. This idea of beauty, or the form of beauty, is the non-material essence, and the material version that we have of beauty is just a poor imitation of it. So again, what does any of that mean? What does any of that mean? This idea of beauty is timeless. Okay. So people have always thought of different things as being beautiful. Beauty did not originate with human beings. Human beings did not they didn't create beauty. They didn't create beautiful. They inside human beings, we all know what is beautiful, what is pleasing to the eye, what we see that we believe is beauty. So, but this isn't subject to time. This idea of beauty is not subject to time, because whether there's never going to be a time where everything will cease to be beautiful and there'll be nothing beautiful. There may be times in your life where you feel that way or think that way, but beauty itself is timeless. So it must be something that is different, that is not of this world. That's where the whole material part comes into play. Our physical world can be altered by our senses, right? So when you get older, or as you get older, your sight gets worse, your hearing gets worse, your sense of smell gets worse. Your taste, you're like the like touch. I guess that's probably the best way. Your sense of touch can get worse. Now your taste buds change. If you're like, I mean, I don't know 100%, but I imagine that they also kind of dull down too. Taste buds change, and I know for a fact if you're a smoker, um, You're not gonna taste things in their fullness. Like that's the biggest thing that like former smokers say. It's like, oh, everything just tastes better now. So your senses can be deceiving. So how do we have? Let's see how we want to phrase this. If the material world can be deceiving, how do we know that there's nothing else out there? And this is essentially what Plato is trying to, I guess, unleash, discover in his dialogues that he writes with Socrates, again being the speaker. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So, yeah, I'll just move out of the way. All right, so how did this theory come about? Well, this theory came about because, again, Plato was a student of Socrates, and Socrates introduced the thought that the material world was separate from the spiritual world. And this is very different from Eastern philosophy. You may have heard me talk about Eastern and Western philosophy. So there are three major world religions that spawn from one area known as, we call it essentially like the Middle East, but even more specifically, like we're talking about Israel and, places around there, Jerusalem, uh, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam all spawned from this area. Now, they both spread in different directions. And in the Western world, we, being part of the Western world, most people typically agree or believe that the material world and the spiritual world are two different things. Now, there is, well, I'll hold on to that one and probably till tomorrow. So, in the Eastern world, they believe that the material world and the spiritual world are one and the same. That there is no difference between them. That everything is one. Everything is the same. The material world is the spiritual world. The spiritual world is the material world. They both inhabit the same thing. While again, in the West part of the world, we do not believe that. I say we, just being because that's the overarching philosophy of the West. Now, here's the reason that Plato believed that the material world and the spiritual world were separate. He says because in the material world, everything is constantly changing. Everything is constantly changing. Nothing is ever the same. Everything is moving. Think about it. Like everything is moving around you at every single second of the day. There's never a time in which nothing has been moving. You can be sitting completely still in a room completely still.
Good afternoon, UCA. Just a reminder that the school leadership team is meeting now in the conference room. Thank you.
There's never been a time where, nothing is moving, because even if you are completely still and nothing's happening, you're breathing. There's a lot of things moving there. Even if you're not breathing, even if you hold your breath, there's still blood pumping through your veins. Things are moving. Even if the only time you can time, I guess, that you cannot freeze time. You cannot manipulate. Well, I guess we'll talk about that. But time doesn't stop, right? Everything is constantly moving. But Plato said in the spiritual world, there are, because also the realm of forms, he says there are perfect, unchanging ideas that exist all throughout time, like beauty. Like when you say beauty, okay, well, that is an idea, but it is an idea that is not bound by time. So it must come from something that, again, is timeless and that is also not bound by time. Or that idea of beauty would have an end and a start and an end date, but it does not. It continues. It is something that is outside of time. So that's how the theory comes about. Now, why does this matter? Well, this matters because what Plato is trying to prove is the immortality of the soul. So let's go to the next slide. So why does this matter? Okay. Why does this matter? Excuse me. This matters because Plato was concerned with how people can live a fulfilling life in a world that is constantly and forever changing. If you're happy, don't you want to figure out, like, don't you want to stay happy? I mean, think about it. I mean, if everything's going great in your life, don't you want it to stay like that? But Plato says that everything is constantly changing, so that it's not going to happen. Like, your best day your best week, your best year, like things are going to change. Like it doesn't matter. It's still going to change. Everything is constantly changing. At every single second of your life, everything is changing. Everything. Uh, Now, Plato was trying to figure out how you could be happy, how you could have a good life in a world that's forever changing. Um, Plato believed that happiness could be attained, but it had to be attained through knowledge, which could only be acquired through reasoning. Um, I'll say this: the more you know, the more you see. So, like, you know, I've got like movies that I used to watch when I was like growing up, I don't know, like probably when I was like 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 years old. And I liked them. I liked them then. But I go back and watch them now and I understand them much more because there's more that I see. You know why there's more that I see? Because there's more that I know. There were references that I didn't understand. There were, problems that I couldn't quite grasp. There were experiences that just didn't quite add up. But as I've gotten older and I've learned more, now I understand those, parts of the movie better because the more I have seen, or excuse me, the more you know, the more you see. Yeah. The more that I've learned, the more that I can see in those movies. And movies are just interpretations, they're just portrayals. This also happens through life. This is why one of the reasons that you're told to respect your elders and, to listen to your parents because they can see more than you because they know more than you. Because they know, the more you see, the more you know. The more you know, the more you see. No, I guess it goes either way. The more you see, the more you know. The more you know, the more you see. The more you know, the more you see. Makes more sense. So they have gained knowledge and experience. I ain't even messing with it. If it comes back on, it comes back on. But they've gained knowledge and experience. And so they can see when you start heading down that wrong path because they've seen it. They know what that path looks like. Maybe they don't. I don't know. I can't speak for your parents, but that is one of the reasons why you are told from such a young age to listen to your parents and respect your parents and take what they say to heart. Think about it. Um, so the theory of forms. So this we said earlier. Let's go back real quick. We said just a little bit earlier that these ideas or forms are the non-material essence of things, and the material version is just a poor imitation. Okay, so Plato believed that this imperfectness of our world is only a reflection of a perfect world. And again, this has been called many names in many different cultures, many different religions. But what essentially, when you hear the word perfect world, I mean, people are talking about like heaven or some type of utopia, heaven on earth. Plato believed that this imperfectness, the imperfectness we see in our world, is because this is a reflection of a perfect world. Now, you're probably asking yourself, well, wouldn't that also be perfect? No, it actually wouldn't. So when you look in a mirror, you don't see yourself exactly how you are. You know why? You look in a mirror, you see yourself in like kind of, reverse. Like I'm holding my hand out right here, right? I'm holding my hand out right here. Now, when I look at my thumb, it is pointing this direction, but to you, it's pointing the other direction. So to me, this is not the same. This is not the same as the way I see my hand. Now, if I look at it like this, again, this is still not exactly the same because it is a mirror. It is a mirror. One of the things that have gotten me, yeah, it's just weird, right? It's just weird. Look in the mirror. Look in the mirror. Here's one thing I used to do that I didn't realize. So, like, I started like parting my hair a certain way. So I'd like part it this way. All right. So I'd part it this way. Now, when I first started doing that, I'd look in the mirror and I'm like, okay, I'm parting my hair to the right, to the right, right. But to you, that is your left. So this is not, this whole thing is not a perfect reflection. No, it is a reflection, but it has flaws. And one of the biggest flaws that we see is that it's not perfect, right? I mean, it's not perfect. I would see a picture of myself and I'd be like, hold on, that's what my hair looks like? You know, my hair isn't parted that way, but in reality it was. But I could only see the reflection of that, which was not perfect. Think about it. Think about it. Uh, Lastly, why does any of this matter? Well, in order to judge anything, one must have an idea of what the perfect form would look like or what it does look like. A doctor must know what the form of a healthy human to perform any type of surgery. Like if you're going to have open heart surgery because you've got something wrong with your heart, well, the doctor has to know what the heart should look like. They have to know what it is, what it's supposed to be, to judge a painting. So again, like to judge a painting, you must have an inner sense of beauty. To say something's beautiful, you have to know what beauty is. To fix a car, a mechanic has to know what an engine should look like, what an engine consists of. Like, they're not going to fix it without knowing what the engine should look like. So we all come in contact with this idea or this theory of forms. It's just not in the way that we think about it, and this is why it's hard to always explain it in a coherent manner because we're talking about something that we kind of know about already, but it's hard to put it into terms that we can easily understand. So also look at one thing. This is our assignment that goes with this. Okay, so the assignment that goes with this is called the perfect forms, and the reason I'm doing this because I want you to be able to take something from our philosophy class together. That's the reason I created this, not because I like hearing myself talk or not because I think I'm smarter than anybody or everybody. I'm sure I'm smarter than some people, but I'm a lot dumber than others too, right? We all are. So let's take a look. If I can scroll up. So we're going to take a look, and this is called the perfect forms. Now, I guess I'll just read this. So, to get you thinking about the theory of forms, we must ask ourselves what perfection actually looks like. Some of the responses may be shorter than others, and that's fine. Our goal is to determine what we think would be the perfect form of each topic. You do not need to worry about anything other than what you see as being perfect. Describe as much as you can about what would go into the perfect form in the question listed below. These questions will get more and more insightful as we go on. So, the first one is, what features does the perfect pizza have? Okay. Now, again, when you think of, okay, what is the perfect pizza? I'm just asking you to tell me as much as you can about it, essentially. Me, perfect pizza to me, when I think of the perfect pizza, it's got stuffed crust. 100% has stuffed crust. Has extra cheese because I like cheese. Think of the perfect pizza. It's probably got mushrooms on it because I like mushrooms. It's probably got sausage on it. I like sausage. Marinara sauce, a side of ranch. But it's got some other stuff on there too. But I can't quite put my finger on exactly what would be the perfect pizza. We have a hard time thinking about perfection. But if we don't at least kind of put some effort into it, we'll never reach anything great. People say, "Oh, you're such a perfectionist." Stop trying to be so perfect. And there is some truth to that. There is some truth to that, but that's also kind of a motivating factor. It's what keeps us striving to do better and better and better. So it's a double. It's a catch 20. No, it's not a catch 22. That's not the word I'm looking for. It has good properties and bad properties, and we'll kind of talk about what that whole idea is called later. Number two, what features does the perfect pair of shoes have? I don't know about you. Excuse me, but my perfect pair of shoes, they're affordable. They're easy to clean. I pretty much just wear white Converses, but I have to buy a new pair every couple months because I get them dirty and I'm just not cleaning them because I'm not good at cleaning them, and it just never looks the same as when you get them out the box. So I just buy a new pair. So they're probably white. I like white shoes. Easy to clean. Maybe some type of like leather. I don't know. Maybe cloth. I don't know. That's a little bit harder for me, but it may be easier for some. For some. What features does the perfect car have? Well, again, think of perfect car. This means different things to different people. My perfect car still has a freaking CD player in it because I got some CDs from like 2002 that I really want to play. What features the perfect school have? Some of you may be going to college here in the next year or two, maybe a little bit, further down the line. But if you don't know what you're looking for, how will you ever find it? You don't want to just go to a school because, well, they have my major there, or they're just going to give me the most money, or it's the closest to home, or it's the farthest away from home. It might have one of those features that you really like, but if it doesn't, you've got a lot of options. Like, be picky, look for what you really want. But to look for what you want, you have to know what you want. So that's what we're trying to do here. Is trying to figure out what we want, then also to get this idea of what perfection is, and how, again, nothing in the world we live in is perfect. What features the perfect house have? Again, this is a fun one. Features the perfect friend have. These get more and more insightful. So, perfect car, perfect school, perfect house, perfect friend, perfect job, perfect spouse. Like, what features do they have? Are they going to be perfect all the time? No. But what characteristics, what qualities, what values are important to you? What do you, if you and your spouse, if you don't know what kind of spouse, not even what kind, if you don't know the qualities you want your spouse to have, then you might end up marrying the wrong person. And I don't know if there's anything. I'm not saying I'm sure there's things worse than that, but I can't think of anything more heartbreaking than that. Just because you didn't put in the time to get to know what you wanted. Lastly, what features does the perfect you have? We all do things we shouldn't. We all fall short of what we could be. We all make mistakes. We're all flawed. If you could write yourself into a story as the greatest character you could be, or the greatest you that you could be, I guess that's the word I'm looking for. But people think that's corny, like, oh, that's stupid. But here's the thing about a lot of true things. Um, it's a lot simpler than we make it, and it usually sounds stupid when we say it. But what features does the perfect you have? What is the perfect you? Can you be that? Maybe not, but it gives you something to strive for. Okay, so I want you to put some thought into this. I want you to think about it. I want you to do your best. You just graded on if you do it. So let's figure out the direction, because our direction will determine our direction will determine our destination. Because if we don't know where we're going, we won't find where we want to go. Thank you. I'll see you tomorrow.